Hi guys, welcome to CADS 3853 module number 24. In this module, we're going to continue discussing the model stock plans that we started last module. But this time, we're going to talk about specifically the model stock plans for basic merchandise. As compared to fashion merchandise, for which the customer demand changes pretty frequently depending on the change in the fashion trend, basic merchandise has very imperceptible style changes, and so that the merchandise buyers can predict the sales pattern pretty accurately. Because the demand doesn't change substantially, the usually buyers like to make more frequent and regular reorders of the merchandise so that you don't stock up too much merchandise in the back room, but you get the merchandise as you need. You can afford to have very short delivery period and things like that. So a lot of times for basic merchandise, it's possible to have an assortment planning activity at the actual specific item level, whereas for fashion merchandise, we had to conduct the assortment planning at the item classification level, such as jackets, pants, and coats, and etc. So for basic merchandise, you actually look at that specific particular item, and for that item, how much is going to be sold in the next few weeks and or throughout the season, and you can pretty much expect that the sales are going to be stable. And for that matter, you want to probably have a certain amount of basic stock or safety stock reserved, plus any amount of stock that it can support further sales. So a lot of times the retailers may like to use an automatic replenishment system in trying to set up some formulas and algorithms to make the process of the reorder more as automatic as possible, because the sales patterns don't change, and the machines can do that kind of job as long as you put the right parameters in there. So in the next slide, we're going to talk about how to set things up and how to figure out how much to be ordered. Basic merchandise model stock plan at the item level, we first need to understand what parameters we need to use to set things up. So here in the box, you see there are 6 things, kind of abbreviations that we need to understand. R means rate of sale, so how many units are going to be sold each week. So it's more like a weekly sales rate in terms of number of units. And RS means reserve stock, so how much do we want to be reserved as a safety stock. So this much we may want to have in the store all the time. On OO, double O's, and on order, so how many units are on the way to be coming to the store now. They were already, the orders were already placed before. DP means delivery period, so how many weeks it takes for the delivery to occur once you place the order. And RP is reorder period, so that means how often, okay, every how many weeks are we going to place a reorder. And OH means on hand, which means the number of units that we already have on hand in our store currently, okay? So given these abbreviations and the parameters, the concepts, we're going to see how to calculate how open to buy and how much we need to purchase. First, we can think about what would be the minimum stock required for the store. So that would be including both the reserved stock, how much we want to have reserved in our store all the time, plus if I place order immediately right now, then how many weeks does it take for the merchandise to be actually coming in my store, which is what the delivery period is. If you consider those things and you time that by your rate of sale, how many units you actually sell every week, then you can think about what that should be your minimum stock that you must have in your store, right? So the RS, reserve stock, which is number of units, number of weeks, plus the DP, delivery period, and combine the number of weeks together for RS and DP, reserve stock period and the delivery period, and then you time that by the rate of sales, how many units you sell per week, and that gives us the minimum stock level that we need for that item. Okay, this is going to be in number of units. Then we can also plan what should be the maximum stock, so the amount of stock that we don't want to go over ever. Okay, That would be the minimum stock plus the RP, which is reorder period, how often we can place order. Okay, this is going to be more like a regular automatic kind of reorder kind of a system. So we want to know how often, regularly, we want to place order. That's what the reorder period is. So that's a number of weeks. Every week do we want to place order, or every other week? Things like that. If it's every week, it will be 1. The RP will be 1. If it is every other week, then the RP will have to be 2, and etc. So the RP times the rate of sale, okay, number of units you sell per week. Okay, if you combine that number, RP times R, that part will be added into the minimum stock level that you plan based on the previous formula, and that will give us what should be the maximum stock. If we order anything beyond, if we carry or more than this maximum stock, that means we have unnecessary extra amount of inventory that we could have not ordered, right? So we don't want to go over the maximum stock, and we don't want our stock to be lower than the minimum stock level, because that will will make us have the risk of getting things run out of stock, and we don't want that. So when we know our maximum stock figured out in the manner that we saw in the previous formula, then the open to buy, which is how many units can we buy from now on, right? At any given point of time, how many units can you buy? That open to buy in number of units can be calculated by knowing the maximum stock requirement minus how much we already have on hand in the store, and minus how much is already placed order and that is coming. So which is the double O, right? So maximum stock minus on hand plus on order, that amount of merchandise have to be subtracted from maximum stock for us to know what is the open to buy. In any case, we want to make sure that our stock level will not go over the maximum stock level at any time, and it will not be at the level below the level of the minimum stock level. And by knowing what is the open to buy, by being able to calculate the open to buy at any point of time, the order can be placed automatically through the automatic replenishment system, or it could be placed manually by a buyer, arbitrarily number that is at the maximum of the open to buy amount, or any less than the open to buy, to assure that you're going to be able to be somewhere between the minimum and maximum overall in your stock level. All right, so let's apply what we just talked about in this example problem. Okay, let's say we have a woman's white tennis socks that we have to plan for based on these following parameters, right? So the R, rate of sales, 150 units per week is the rate of sale for these tennis socks. And reserve stock is 1 week. That means we want to have at least 1 week worth of merchandise reserved in the store, regardless of the sales. OH on hand is 197 units are currently in the store, and 6 dozen units, so 6 times 12 units are on their way to come to the store right now. Delivery period is 2 weeks. That means it will take 2 weeks for the merchandise to be delivered to my store, to our store, if I place the order right now. And the reorder period is 1 week. That means we are planning to place orders every week, right? Vendor reorders is 1 dozen units. That means vendor likes us to reorder things in dozen units instead of in units. So we will have to place orders in 1 dozen, 2 dozen, etc. So like in number of dozens. That's what it is. All right. So if given these parameters, let's calculate the open to buy in number of units. Okay, let's pause the video and work on the problem and come back after you get some answer. All right, let's take a look at the solution together. Okay, so at the minimum, we want the reserve stock plus DP, delivery period, that week's sales worth amount of merchandise, right? So LS 1 week plus DP of 2 weeks. So that's 3 weeks worth merchandise we want to have as a minimum stock. So 3 weeks times the rate of sale, 150 units per week. So that gives us a 450 units as our minimum stock level requirement. For the maximum stock, we will have to add in the reorder period times the R. So 1 week is reorder period. We want to place order every week. So 1 week times 150 units. Okay, so 450 plus 150, that gives us the maximum stock level of 600 units. So how much we can order as the open to buy will be the maximum stock minus on hand plus on order. So 600 minus what we already have, 97 units, plus the on order of 72 units. That gives us 331 units as our open to buy. So we can place order as many as 331 units. Obviously, the vendor wanted the orders to be in dozens, so you're going to have to divide this by 12 dozens to figure out how many dozens this open to buy units will be translated into. Alright, so let's work on another problem. Okay, here we're talking about comforters. Let's say we're the buyer of comforters, and we're using these parameters to decide on our open to buy. So the R rate of sale, there are 2 different colors of comforter, navy blue and beige. The rate of sale, obviously beige comforters are selling better than the navy blue according to the data. So 18 per week is the rate of sale for the beige comforter item, whereas for the navy blue comforter item, we can only sell 10 units per week. The reserve stock is the same. We want to have a 1 week sales worth amount of inventory reserved. On hand, we have the 6 units of navy blue and 36 units of the beige comforters. So we've got a lot of beige right now in the store. On order, we've got 6 units of navy blue comforters that are on order, that are coming right now, and 3 units of beige that are on order. Delivery period, reorder periods, all 1 week for both navy blue and beige comforters. And the vendor likes us to place orders in every 3 units. So it's a pack of 3 units is what we're going to have to place order. Okay, so the first we want to calculate the open to buy. So how many units we can calculate, we can buy for each of these 2 colors of comforters. So we can do the calculation for the minimum and maximum, and then finally we get the open to buy. Then we can convert that into 3 units packs. You know how many packs we can purchase for each color. Okay, so let's work on that first. Let's calculating open to buy in terms of the number of units first. Let's pause the video. Alright, so let's take a look at the solution together. Let's take a look at the navy blue comforters case first. Okay, to calculate the minimum stock, we first needed to know the rate of the reserve stock and the DP delivery period, which were both just 1 week. So 1 plus 1 weeks, so 2 weeks, times 10 units per week that we're selling, the rate of sale. So that gives us the 20 units as our minimum stock level for navy blue. Whereas for the beige, okay, the RS, reserve stock, and DP are the same, 1 and 1 week. However, the rate of sale is a lot higher for beige, 18 units. So they lead us a higher or more minimum stock number of units for beige. So 36 units are the minimum stock level for the beige comforter, whereas 20 was the case for the navy blue comforter. For the maximum stock calculation, now we look at the minimum stock plus the reorder period of 1 week. Again, 1 week times 10 units for navy blue and 18 units for the beige, right? So navy blue 20 units plus 10 units, so that gives us the 30 units as our maximum stock. So for the navy blue comforter, we want to carry between 20 and 30 units of navy blue comforters. Whereas for beige, the minimum stock level was 36 plus we're gonna need to we are able to sell 18 units per week, so that makes the reorder period 1 week times the 18 units, that makes the maximum stock level of 54 units. So that means we want to carry between 36 and 54 units of beige comforters, right? So 36 is the minimum stock and 54 is the maximum stock level that we plan for the basic comforter. So given this, the open to buy, so how many units we can actually place order right now would be for navy blue, 30 units of maximum stock minus 6 on hand and 6 on order, right? So that will be 12. Subtract 12 from 30, that gives us 18 units for the open to buy. Whereas for beige, we had a lot on order. We already had 36 units on hand. So because we already have a lot, although our maximum stock level is higher for beige than for navy blue, because we already have a lot on hand for beige, our open to buy is actually lower than navy blues. Open to buy for beige is lower than the open to buy for navy blue. So 54 minus 36 plus 3 units. The on order was 3 units. That gives us the 15 units as the open to buy. Okay, so you can kind of see how the rate of sale plays in our calculation of the minimum and the maximum stock levels in this kind of case. So in summary of the last and this modules, which were all for about model stock planning, we can kind of see the value of the model stock planning could be a little bit different between for the fashion merchandise and for basic merchandise. For fashion merchandise, the focus was to provide the right mix of SKUs, right, to the customers for each item classification. So the model stock planning was focused on planning the right mix of SKUs for each category or each item classification. Whereas for basic merchandise, the goal of the model stock planning is to set up and maintain the right SKU mix over time. Basically, what that means is that we want to maintain a consistent amount of stock for at the item level, for the specific item level, so that across the time, the SKU mix that we planned and works well initially will continue to work well over time. So the because of the different characteristics of these two different categories of merchandise, fashion versus basic, the focus is slightly different in the model stock planning. For fashion merchandise, like every season, you kind of have to try to figure out what will be the right SKU mix and try to predict that, and that's part of the model stock planning. Whereas for basic merchandise, trying to, of course, initially you will have to set up a right SKU mix, but after that, you're trying to maintain the right SKU mix across time, over time, by having a predictable sales pattern and try to supply the inventory to be able to support that predicted sales. In either case, both the fashion and basic merchandise cases, the overall eventual goal of the model stock planning is to improve the profitability. In both cases, we want to have the right SKU mix, right? By having the right SKU mix, we want to decrease the out-of-stock situation and increase the in-stock situation without spending any unnecessary extra excessive amount of money in inventory investment. Okay, so basically, we want to have the right amount, right kind of merchandise at the right time, in the right place, right? In doing so, we can decrease the markdowns and increase the chance to sell items at their more regular price, which will increase our net sales. So that's the whole goal of having the right model stock planning. All right, so this concludes module number 24. Please don't forget to work on module problem assignment number 24, and thanks for listening.